Hi. So today we're going to brew up Pliney the Elder, the all-grain version. It's a very simple recipe. I'm basically using 88% two-row, 4% of carapils, and I'm also using 3% crystal malt 40L. Also, we got a pretty good hot build. I'll go ahead and show that to you. But yeah, right now we're just waiting for the strike water to heat up, and then we'll, during that process, go ahead and mash our grain. So let's go ahead and take a look at the grist. Alright, here we go. So the majority of the base is just two-row, and I've got 4% carapils, and then also 3% of crystal 40. So you can see it's a little bit of difference in the color of each one of those. So I try to Yeah, I'm screwing with you. Alright. So right now you can see the element is on, and I'm heating up the temperature of the strike water to 75 degrees. Currently at 66 and climbing. Some of you might notice something new on the control panel. I actually finally got labels on there. Let me know what everything is. But yeah, a little bit of a logo there. Dedicated to. You know, she wanted me to write sponsored by. So I compromised. Anyway, yeah. So I got the pump on, the elements on, heating up the strike water and the HLT. I don't know if I ever showed you the inside of this, so pretty much it's pretty easy. So the water's coming out through the bottom of the pump. Right, if you can see that, and then it's coming up through the top, and then it's going up to the top of the HLT, and I've got a little spout there on the end. So the pressure, so it's a natural sort of whirlpool that gets the water moving around the element so that all of the water heats up equally. So currently at 68, so we're almost there, just a couple more minutes. And then we'll be pushing the strike water up into the mash tun. Okay, so now the temperature in my strike water's reached 75 degrees, so I'm going to go ahead and change the hoses so that we can start to fill up the mash tun with the water required. Hot as hell. Need gloves. Alright, so change the configuration, and instead of the water coming out of the pump and going back up to the top of the HLT, now it comes out and it's going to feed into the bottom of the mash tun. Now our recipe calls for 24 quarts of strike water, and that basically equates to about 6 gallons. So what I'm going to do is open up the valve on the pump and start to bring in 6 gallons of water. So I'll open it up on the mash tun. I'll open it up over here on the pump, and any second now we'll start to see some water starting to come on up in here. There we go. What we want is 6 gallons, and 6 gallons is right here. So there it is, water's coming up. What we want to get to is right about here. Alright, So I'll get ready and show these. Just about there. There we go. Shut the pump off. I'll go ahead and shut this valve here. And then I'm going to go ahead and return this up to the recycle inlet and fill the water. You can see the level is about halfway down. Back up so it comes up above the coil, and then make sure that that temperature gets to our mash temperature. Okay, so now the water is coming out the bottom of the kettle, going through the pump, through the top, back into the top of the HLT, and it's constantly recycling and going to maintain a constant temperature of, we're looking at 156 Fahrenheit today. So, and then at the same time, the wort is going to be coming out here through the bottom of the pump to the top of the pump, up into the HLT coil, and then coming back up top for a continuous sparge. So I'll go ahead and do the mash in now. Get these grains off the side. Get as much of that sugar as possible.
Dad.
Yeah? Are you back to help me?
Yeah.
You are? Do you want to see this up here? Check it out. Here, whoops. See this? I put all those grains here in this water. And this is going to become sweet water. So all the starches I told you about in those kernels, they're going to convert to sugars. And then when it's ready, I'll let you taste the sugar water. Okay? Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and set up the recycle hose and then come back. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and set up the recirculation hose. Come in, it'll basically just float on top. There we go. It will create a natural whirlpool on top, and I'll show you that after. Okay, so we're all mashed in. We've got the pumps on. You can come up here and see the control panel. We got both the pumps on, so the water's recycling and the wort is recycling through the coil. I've got a mash temperature currently at 68, and that's exactly what we want today, 68 Celsius. That's 156 Fahrenheit. And then we've got the HLT controller. You can see the elements coming on and off. So I'm set for a temp of 68, and it's currently 69. But that's okay. This is what's important. We need to get that up to 68. Make sure that stays at 68. We take a look at the configuration now. Like I said, the water is coming down out of the back to the bottom of the kettle, going through the pump, recycling back up to the top, making sure that this water stays at the desired temperature of 68 degrees. The mash tun, we got the liquid coming out of the bottom, through the bottom of the pump, up, and then going through the HLT coil and maintaining that temperature of 68 degrees. And then coming back into the top. If we look at the wort, it should have a good little bit of a whirlpool on top. And sure enough we do. That'll clear up real good. So now that mash out temperatures have been reached, time to transfer the wort into the boil kettle. Alright, so I'll show you this. It's just a trickle coming in. So I'll go ahead and let that fill up very slowly. That should take anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour. You really want to get best extraction possible. So now I'm going to take the water that's been recycling up through the HLT and push that up through the coil so that one, we rinse out the coil with hot water and use that as a sparge water to mash out with. I wanna make it, puts a tear in your eye. I wanna make it that makes me cry. I wanna make it that tastes so good. I'm gonna make it like you knew I would. Alright, let's check out where we're at. So, we took out all of the sparge water that we needed from the HLT and shut that valve off on the pump, turn the pump off, and then now we've basically emptied out at least the top portion of this. So this is all dried grains. Not dry, but still damp. So now we're no longer hovering up around 8. Now we're down here currently at about 3 3/4 gallons there. And then over here in the boil kettle, see if we can focus in on that. Some nice looking color there. Looking good. Currently standing at 7.5. Alright, 7.5. Where we're headed is upwards of 9. So yeah, I think we're on target. So I'm going to go ahead and take a reading of the wort coming out of there now and make sure it's not anywhere near 1.011, right? We always want to stay above that. Alright, so there we go. So we're about 1.019. Still a little bit of way to go. Alright, there's pre-boil gravity. It's right about 161, between 161 and 162. Our target was 1.060, so we're just a hair above our target, which is perfect. It's not perfect, but it's good. Okay, as the wort's coming up to a boil, go ahead and just run down the hop bill, or at least the additions that are coming up. The very first one is dextrose, actually, so right at 90 minutes. It's going to be a 90-minute boil. So we're putting in 14.1 ounces of dextrose, and this is basically going to bump up the fermentable sugars in the wort. So the reason why we mash at such a high temperature is because we want the complex sugars in there that the yeast will not be able to completely digest, and that's going to give a more bigger mouthfeel, so it'll be more medium. And so now we're adding in fermentable sugars to be able to get the alcohol that we expect. For these numbers, don't go ahead and necessarily just look at these numbers and say, oh well, I'll match them. But these numbers are all rated so that they'll give me my target volume of 7 gallons for my system. So your system might be a little bit different. So for a 5-gallon batch, I'll make sure to add in the original recipe that I got from Vinnie, from an article that Vinnie wrote. But just to kind of calculate, you can calculate what your target IBUs are going to be. The dextrose is one thing, but then we get into target IBUs. So at 90 minutes, we're going to dump in Columbus. You can also use CTZ. The target IBUs on that first edition is 170. So if you have a smaller volume, then basically you still want to target that IBU 170 for the first hit. Alright, moving on. At the 45 minutes, we're going to add in another hit of Columbus to target about 31.3 IBUs. And then for the 30-minute edition, we're going to target 26 IBUs, and this time it's Simcoe. So the first two editions are Columbus. The next 30-minute edition is Simcoe. And then at flame out, we're going to add 2 more ounces, almost 3 ounces of Simcoe, and another ounce and a little bit extra from Centennial. And then a lot of the flavors from the hops, of course, come from a 2-week dry hopping regimen. So that's just something to think about. So this is for the boil, and then we'll also be dry hopping with. So during the dry hop phase, on the 14-day mark, so this one will be for the longest, we're going to add in another ounce of Centennial. We're also going to add in an ounce of Columbus and another ounce of Simcoe. Now, the Admiral is not something I'm probably going to use. I don't use that. Alright. So, and then after a week of dry hopping, then I'll go ahead and add in another dry hop regimen. This time of just a third of an ounce of Columbus and a third of an ounce of Simcoe. But I'll just give everything sort of a whirl and agitate the existing hops that are in there. Yep. The yeast I'm going to be using for this brew is the California Ale yeast from White Labs, WLP001. For this batch size, I'll be using 2 of these canisters. Last time I used 2 and it worked out perfectly. So, a little trick to know when you're using these is to take them out of the fridge, about an hour or 2 before you're going to use them. Otherwise, when you crack them open, they sort of have a tendency to spray out. So as long as you normalize them to a room temperature before you open them up, they won't splash that way. So try that out. Getting the first signs of a boil. A little bit of bubbling. Now what some people do with this is actually you can use a colander just to take the scum away. And that's okay too. Just in a matter of time it took me to go turn down my PID. You saw this thing just rise up. It can get away from you pretty quickly. So I'm not going to use the spray water this time, spray bottle. I'll just blow on it gently, cool it down a little bit, and it will go down. That's how you give your boil a blowjob. What? Did I say that? Alright, I'm going to call that hot break. Now I'm going to start to add in my dextrose. You can see that cooled it down a little bit. So I'll let that get back up to a boil. Last time I had my PID set on 72% for the boil, and I don't think I evaporated enough. So it wasn't an aggressive enough boil to boil off the expected amount. So my start gravity, my original gravity, post-boil gravity, was lower than I had anticipated. So this time I'm going to go ahead and, instead of 72, I'll bump it up to 75 and keep it there. Alright, so we're back up to a roll and boil post hot break. It's going to get a little bit more aggressive over the next minute or two, and that's cool. So I've added the dextrose. Now I'm going to add in my 4+ ounces of Columbus. Kick this bad boy up. Smell that? With that, I'm going to go ahead and hit my timer for 90 minutes. Alright, so the boil PID is set on 75%. You can see the element kicking on every now and then. And I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. 90 minutes on the clock, 90-minute boil. Now time to clean up the mash tun. Alright, so I got 44 minutes coming up. Time for the next hop edition. I unplugged the HLT and the mash tun because I don't need those anymore. And still got the boil kettle running at 75%. So all is good. Alright, got the pump on, so I'm cleaning out the mash tun here. Alright, let's get ready for that hop edition. This one's going to be 0.88 ounce of Columbus. And it's 45. Well, that was sort of anticlimactic, as it wasn't. Alright, so we're approaching our 60-minute mark. Alright, 59 minutes, 17 seconds and counting. So time to get ready with the 30-minute additions. Alright, so 30 minutes before the 90 minutes is up. So we'll put in a little over 1 ounce of Simcoe. 60 minutes on the clock. Love that smell of Simcoe. Give it a stir. I got Witch's Brew! Witch's Brew! Alright, so we finally reached the 90 minutes, right? So we're just 8 seconds away. I don't have the alarm on, so I'm not going to worry about the clock right now. The boil is going nicely. Post boil volume, I should be right at 7.5. 7.5 is here, and I'm just a hair under. So I'll be interested to see how that affects the OG. So I've got the plate chiller all hooked up, ready to go. I'll walk through it in just a second. Come up here and turn off the boil kettle. Alright, so the boil's starting to dial down. So we got 2.9 ounces of Simcoe and 1.17 ounces of Centennial going in now. she goes. I'll give that a few minutes to soak up, and I'm going to hook up the whirlpool. Alright, well, I'm kind of mad as hell. Problems. Always fucking problems. Anyway. Biggest problem was, you know that fancy schmancy fucking expensive plate chiller? Fuck that plate chiller. Fuck that plate chiller. That piece of shit fucking blocked up on me. So, what did I do? I got no way to chill the wort down. That's the only way. I don't have a copper tubing, anything like that I can run through. So, I don't know if I'm gonna fuck up this batch or whatever. Two things are wrong. One, I just checked the original gravity, right? So the post-boil gravity on this thing, 1086. I'm supposed to be at 1076. So 10 points over. Now I know a lot of people would be happy about that, but I'm kind of striving for meeting my numbers according to the program and doing it by the book and, you know, meeting the mark. Maybe exceeding it a little bit, but not 10 fucking 86. And then, of course, the plate chiller. So, I don't have cubes, so I'm not going to try the no chill method. All I have is buckets and the carboy, the better bottle. So what I'm going to do, all I did is, I'll try and salvage it. But basically, I put it in a bucket and put it in the fridge. What else are you going to do? Put it in a bucket, put it in the fridge. I'll check in a few hours, and if it's not chilled down, I don't know. You know, I'll get it down to temperature. I'll pitch the yeast. I'll put it in the chamber and let it go. See what happens. Time will tell. Okay, so on the left-hand side, that's the Pliney the Elder that is going. It's been 3 days now in the fermenter, and still going strong. This was the Stone 10th anniversary, and the OG on that as of yesterday was about 1.028. So we're going to continue letting that go for another week or so. Just added in some dry hops, so you can see a layer of hops there at the top. Alright, and then so we'll let this one go for another week, and then begin the dry hopping for that. Okay, so now things are much better. Things I didn't think about at the time was, you know, in previous Homebrew Wednesdays, I actually did a test with my HLT to see if I could use it as a wort chiller, and it worked out really good. It was like 15 minutes to go from boiling down to pitching temperatures, which is, you know, maybe twice as long as what the Terminator does, but still, it's good enough. Faster than a immersion chiller. With it, you sort of have trade-offs, because I would have lost a little bit of wort stuck in the coil, a little bit extra cleaning to clean that out afterwards, but it would have totally been worth it, because the bucket was in the fridge for like 6 hours, and yeah, it was still 30 degrees. So it took another couple hours to bring it down to 20 degrees, and then I pitched the yeast on into the better bottle. So it's going okay. We'll see how the taste is affected once that's done. So it's got about another week to go in primary. Then I'll put it over into a secondary and begin dry hopping. So yeah, that's my Homebrew Wednesday. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's a long one. If you made it this far, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.